Hey Bougie click. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that often gets overlooked: deadbeat mothers. Society tends to focus on absent fathers, but it's high time we acknowledge that mothers can fall short too. Parenting is a shared responsibility, and neglect knows no gender. In this video, we'll explore the harsh realities of bad motherhood and why accountability should be equal. Let's break the stigma and spark a conversation that brings all parental failures to light.
I'ma make you a fan.
Deadbeat mothers exist too, and it is high time to call them out. Society has long fixated on the image of the absent father, the man who vanishes without a trace, leaving behind nothing but unpaid child support and broken promises. Everyone loves to drag deadbeat fathers through the mud, and rightfully so. But let's get one thing straight: mothers can be deadbeats too, and it's about time the conversation expands beyond the usual narrative. A bad mother isn't just someone who struggles, she is someone who chooses to be absent, neglectful, or indifferent, and somehow still expects sympathy. And yet, when the discussion of parental failure comes up, deadbeat mothers often slip under the radar, protected by outdated notions that motherhood automatically guarantees commitment and care. It does not. The truth is, being a mother doesn't automatically make someone nurturing or responsible. Some women fail their children just as badly as the worst fathers do, and they cause just as much damage, if not more. A mother is supposed to nurture, protect, and provide, but some women make selfish choices that ruin their kids' lives. Ignoring this reality does nothing but keep children trapped in cycles of neglect and abuse. When we analyze the numbers and the impact both have on their children's lives, who is the real deadbeat? Let's get into it. The myth of the deadbeat dad. Society has long painted fathers as the primary culprits of parental neglect. The stereotype of the absent father who refuses to pay child support or be involved in his child's life is deeply ingrained. While there is truth to this narrative, it is not the full picture. Many fathers fight for custody only to be denied by biased legal systems. Others are alienated from their children by manipulative mothers who use them as pawns in personal vendettas. The overlooked reality of bad mothers. Bad mothers exist, but they are rarely called out with the same intensity as bad fathers. Studies show that mothers are more likely to abuse or neglect their children than fathers. According to data from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, mothers are responsible for over 70% of child abuse cases. This includes physical, emotional, and psychological harm. Yet society often excuses maternal neglect under the guise of stress or financial hardship. The double standard in accountability. When fathers fail, they are labeled deadbeats. When mothers fail, they are seen as struggling or overwhelmed. This double standard allows bad mothers to escape accountability while bad fathers are publicly shamed. A mother who abandons her child is often given sympathy, while a father who does the same is vilified. Society is quick to condemn deadbeat dads, but when a mother fails her children, people scramble to justify her actions. She was overwhelmed. She needed a break. She was struggling. While those factors may be real, they don't erase the harm done to the children. A deadbeat is a deadbeat, regardless of gender. Selective credit and convenient blame. It is a tale as old as time. A child excels in academics or achieves success, and the mother proudly takes full credit. Yet when the same child makes poor decisions or struggles in life, suddenly the absentee father is the scapegoat. The narrative conveniently shifts to blaming his absence for every shortcoming, while the mother distances herself from the fallout. This double standard ignores the fundamental truth that the parent who stayed and raised the child is the one who shaped their character, behavior, and decision-making. Whether a father voluntarily leaves or passes away, the reality is the same: he is absent from the child's life. Yet, there is an undeniable distinction in how society frames these scenarios. If a father walks away, any struggles the child faces are pinned directly on his abandonment. But if a father dies, the narrative shifts entirely. Suddenly, his absence is an unfortunate tragedy, and all blame redirects toward external circumstances rather than his lack of involvement. The mother, in this case, does not get to blame the missing father for the child's failures the way she would if he had left voluntarily. In both situations, women conveniently get to pass the blame to someone or something else besides her poor parenting. Influence comes from presence, not absence. The truth is that an absent parent, regardless of the reason, is not actively shaping the child's behavior. The person who remains is the one who does the daily work of raising that child. If a mother can claim full credit for her child's successes, then logically, she must also accept responsibility for their failures. But instead, society allows mothers to conveniently shift blame when the father is absent due to abandonment while removing that same blame when the absence is due to death. The result? A system where accountability is selectively applied based on narrative convenience rather than reality. Parenting is not just about genetic contribution. It is about daily influence, guidance, and reinforcement. The person actively involved in a child's life, disciplining, nurturing, and providing structure, has the most impact. Good or bad, their presence determines the trajectory of a child's development far more than the absence of the other parent. Excusing failure with the claim that a father was missing does not erase the fact that the mother was present and had the power to instill values, set expectations, and model appropriate behavior. Accountability applies to the parent who raised the child. A child's character reflects the environment they grew up in. If a mother was the dominant parental force, then she bears the responsibility for the child's choices. This is not to say that absentee fathers are blameless, but to pretend that their lack of presence holds more weight than the daily guidance of the primary parent is a deliberate refusal to acknowledge reality. If mothers can claim ownership of their children's achievements, they must also accept responsibility for their failures. The influence of an actively present parent cannot be overshadowed by the absence of another. A father's death does not automatically result in a struggling child, just as his departure does not guarantee failure. In both cases, the child's development ultimately depends on the parent who remains. The lessons taught, the environment provided, and the guidance given all shape who the child becomes. Blaming an absentee father while absolving a deceased one reveals an uncomfortable truth: many mothers do not want full accountability for their parenting outcomes. But the fact remains, the present parent, for better or worse, carries the most weight in shaping the child's future. Neglect disguised as struggle. Society is quick to grant struggling mothers endless grace, making excuses for their behavior even when they knowingly abandon their responsibilities. While hardship is real and valid, it does not justify selfishness at the expense of a child's well-being. Some mothers are simply absent, physically, emotionally, and financially, without remorse or intention to change. Whether it's chasing an unstable lifestyle, putting a new relationship above their children, or expecting others to pick up their slack, the result is the same: a child left questioning their worth. Not every mother is a loving protector. Some women leave their kids to fend for themselves while chasing men, money, or personal pleasures. They let their new boyfriends abuse their children, ignoring the signs, or worse, knowing and still doing nothing. They misuse child support, spending it on their own hair, nails, and nights out instead of feeding and clothing their kids. The result? Children who grow up dirty, hungry, and struggling, while their mother prioritizes her own wants over their needs. Bad mothers come in many forms, but the most damaging are those who neglect and abuse their children. In the United States, more than 550,000 children were victims of abuse and neglect in 2022. Mothers were involved in over 70% of child neglect cases. The consequences of neglect are severe, leading to mental health issues, developmental delays, and even death. In 2022, 1,990 children died due to abuse and neglect. The numbers do not lie. Mothers are more likely than fathers to be the sole perpetrators of child maltreatment. Reports indicate that mothers acting alone are responsible for the majority of child fatalities due to neglect or abuse. This is not to say that fathers are innocent, but it does challenge the narrative that men are inherently worse parents. Emotional absenteeism is just as damaging. A mother does not have to physically leave the house to be considered a deadbeat. Some sit in the same room but refuse to engage, acting like their children are an inconvenience rather than a priority. They neglect their kids emotionally, withholding love, support, and guidance while chasing their own interests. The damage this creates is immeasurable, leading to children who grow up seeking validation in all the wrong places because they never got it from the person who was supposed to give it freely. Bad fathers tend to be absent in the traditional sense, they physically disappear, rarely engage, and often fail to pay support. This financial negligence forces single mothers to shoulder the entire burden, raising children on their own with minimal resources. Bad mothers, on the other hand, often get a pass, despite many cases of emotional neglect, leaving their children unsupported while still technically present. Studies show that children raised by neglectful mothers experience higher rates of depression and self-esteem issues compared to those raised by neglectful fathers. This is because a bad mother can do more damage while still present, her toxicity shaping a child's mental and emotional well-being. Financial abandonment without consequences. When a father skips out on child support, society hunts him down and labels him accordingly. But when a mother refuses to contribute, either dumping her child on family members or expecting the father to handle everything alone, the judgment is softer, sometimes non-existent. There are mothers who disappear entirely, leaving their children to be raised by others while they live their best life with no responsibility. And even if they stick around, some refuse to provide, expecting their child's needs to be magically met without putting in any effort themselves. The myth of the nurturing motherhood instinct. Not every woman is meant to be a mother. Some may have given birth, but they never developed the instinct to nurture, guide, or care beyond what benefits them personally. The world would have us believe that motherhood is automatic, that every woman who has a child naturally transforms into a caregiver. But real motherhood is intentional. It requires sacrifice, commitment, and unwavering love. Those who refuse to show up for their kids do not deserve the title. There's a dangerous assumption that all women are naturally inclined to care for their children. While many mothers are loving and dedicated, some are simply not fit for the job. Whether it's selfishness, irresponsibility, or outright neglect, bad mothers exist. And they don't always get the same level of scrutiny as deadbeat dads. The mother who gave up her kids for a press tour. Take Amora Lex, for example. She handed over her 5 children to Child Protective Services, then went on a press tour to talk about it. Instead of prioritizing her kids, she made herself the center of attention, hopping from interview to interview as if she were the victim. The fact that she was given a platform at all speaks volumes about how society treats mothers differently than fathers in similar situations. She made headlines when she live-streamed herself dropping off her 5 children at Child Protective Services. She claimed she was overwhelmed, lacked support from their fathers, and needed to focus on her education and mental health. Instead of quietly handling the situation, she went on a press tour, discussing her decision in interviews and social media posts. At one point, she even joked about wanting to go out and party now that she was free of her kids. Her story sparked heated debates. Some argued that fathers walk away all the time without consequence, so why should she be vilified? Others pointed out that while struggling parents deserve support, publicly discarding children like unwanted baggage is unacceptable. The fact remains, her children were left in the system, and she continued to chase attention rather than stability. The mother who left her kids to go on vacation. Then there's Erin Lee Mack, who left her 4 children home alone while she jetted off to Europe. No babysitter, no supervision, just 4 kids fending for themselves while their mother enjoyed her getaway. Authorities had to intervene, and she was charged with child endangerment. Another case involved Lakeisha Woods Williams, who left her 6- and 8-year-old children alone in a high-rise apartment while she went on a cruise 3. The apartment was filthy, reeking of urine, and the kids had no adult supervision for days. If a father had done this, the outrage would have been deafening. But when a mother does it, there's always someone ready to make excuses. The case of Brittany Gosney. Brittany Gosney attempted to abandon her 6-year-old son, James Hutchinson, at a park. When he tried to get back into the car, she sped off, dragging him to his death. Instead of reporting the incident immediately, she and her boyfriend dumped his body in a river. The case of Rachel Henry. Rachel Henry smothered her 3 children, ages 3, 1, and 7 months, while singing to them. She later admitted to the murders, showing no remorse. The case of Chantel Gardner. Chantel Gardner, a 33-year-old mother from Indianapolis, made the horrifying decision to leave her 2 young children, Skylar Gardner, 2, and her 4-year-old son, home alone for extended periods while she stayed at her boyfriend's house. She would reportedly return once a day to bring them food but otherwise left them to fend for themselves in a filthy, neglected environment. When she finally came home on January 25, 2025, she found Skylar unresponsive under a dresser. The toddler had severe bruises on her face, arms, legs, back, and genitals, along with a puncture wound on her neck. The home was in deplorable condition, with feces on the walls and an overwhelming stench of rotting food. Authorities pronounced Skylar dead at the scene. Gardner was arrested and charged with neglect of a dependent resulting in death. Her case is a stark reminder that maternal neglect can be just as deadly as paternal abandonment. Holding mothers accountable. It's time to stop sugarcoating the reality of bad mothers. Parenthood is a responsibility, not a privilege to be discarded when it becomes inconvenient. If we're going to hold fathers accountable for their failures, we need to do the same for mothers. No more excuses. No more free passes. A child deserves love, stability, and care, no matter who is supposed to provide it. The statistics don't lie. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, as of recent years, around 80% of single-parent households are led by mothers, which means fathers are absent in the majority of single-parent scenarios. In child support cases, around 30% of custodial fathers receive child support, compared to 50% of custodial mothers. This suggests that absent fathers are not just emotionally missing but also financially failing their children. But let's talk about mothers. According to various social service reports, neglect cases where mothers are the primary caregiver outnumber neglect cases involving fathers. Mothers are more likely to be reported for child abuse and negligence compared to fathers. And let's not forget the rise of social media, exposing cases where mothers abandon their children for relationships, drugs, or simply neglect them in favor of their own desires. The unequal contribution in child support. Child support is intended to cover a child's essential needs, yet some mothers divert these funds for personal expenses. Child support is intended to ensure that both parents contribute equally to their child's financial needs. Legally, both parents are responsible for financially supporting their child, regardless of gender or custody arrangements. However, some custodial mothers fall short in providing their fair share, leaving the financial burden disproportionately on fathers. Legally, both parents are responsible for covering essential expenses like food, shelter, clothes, education, and healthcare. Courts aim to balance this obligation based on income, not gender, meaning the parent who earns more may be required to contribute more. However, in many cases, women with custody do not financially compensate at an equal rate, despite having similar or greater earnings than the father. A U.S. Census report highlights glaring issues in child support payments. 43.5% of custodial parents receive the full amount owed, 26.5% either receive partial payments or inconsistent support, the remaining 30% receive nothing at all. Among those who do receive support, there is little regulation ensuring that these funds are spent on the child's actual needs. This raises concerns about accountability and financial fairness, particularly in cases where custodial mothers fail to contribute adequately to their child's expenses. If true financial equity is the goal, reforms must be considered to ensure that custodial mothers are held to the same financial expectations as fathers, especially when their income warrants a greater contribution. Striking a balance between financial fairness and responsible allocation remains a pressing issue in modern family law. Food stamp fraud. Food stamps exist to ensure children have access to nutritious meals, yet some mothers sell their benefits instead of using them for their kids. Fraud within the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, has been a growing issue, with millions of dollars misappropriated in unauthorized transactions. In Alabama alone, $15.9 million in SNAP benefits were replaced due to fraud between 2023 and 2024. Government assistance is meant to help struggling parents provide for their families. But some mothers abuse the system, selling their food stamps for cash instead of putting food on the table. Meanwhile, their kids are left with empty refrigerators, surviving on scraps or relying on others for meals. It's beyond selfish, it's criminal. A mother who chooses money over her child's well-being is no better than a deadbeat father who walks away. Losing government housing over men. Government housing is designed to provide stability for families, but some mothers prioritize relationships over their children's well-being. Women make up 75% of those living in affordable housing, yet many lose their homes due to unauthorized occupants. Homelessness disproportionately affects single mothers, leaving children vulnerable to instability and hardship. A bad mother will risk losing everything for the sake of a man. Some women let men move into their government-subsidized housing, fully knowing the rules forbid it. When caught, they lose their home, and their kids are the ones who suffer. Stability is shattered because she put her relationship before her children. A good mother would prioritize a roof over her kids' heads, not chase a relationship that puts them at risk. Ruining children's credit. One of the most insidious forms of parental betrayal is identity theft. Child identity fraud costs U.S. families approximately $1 billion annually, affecting 1 in every 50 children. Many cases involve parents using their child's social security number to open accounts, leaving them with ruined credit before they even reach adulthood. One of the worst forms of betrayal is when a mother ruins her child's financial future before they even have a chance. Putting bills in their child's name, racking up debt, and destroying their credit is selfish beyond belief. When that child grows up, they are stuck cleaning up a mess they didn't create, unable to get a loan, a car, or an apartment because their own mother stole their financial freedom. No excuses. It's deadbeat behavior, plain and simple. Women are reckless in choosing partners. While not all abandoned mothers made reckless choices, data suggests that women who have children with high-risk men, such as those with criminal records or multiple baby mothers, face greater challenges. Studies show that women who have children with formerly incarcerated men are twice as likely to experience financial instability and 3 times more likely to raise children in single-parent households. Additionally, 25% of unmarried opposite-sex couples include at least one partner who has children with multiple people. Stats on women having babies with criminals or men with multiple baby mothers. 1 in 5 U.S. mothers have children with multiple fathers. Women with low income and little education are more likely to have children with men who have criminal records or multiple baby mothers. Stats on women who push fathers away. Some mothers intentionally block fathers from seeing their children, often due to personal conflicts rather than legitimate concerns. Studies show that 40% of fathers who want to be involved in their children's lives face resistance from the mother. Legal battles over custody often favor mothers, making it harder for fathers to maintain relationships with their children. Only 18.3% of fathers are granted custody, despite many being financially stable and willing to co-parent. Over 25% of fathers who do not get custody have 0 in-person visits with their children each year, often due to maternal interference. Some women will go out of their way to prevent responsible fathers from seeing their children. The societal bias in how these situations are handled plays a major role in shaping these outcomes. The reality of maternal complicity in child abuse. When a mother allows her partner, whether a boyfriend, stepfather, or husband, to abuse her children, she is not just failing as a protector, she is actively enabling harm. While many mothers are victims themselves, their silence or denial often results in devastating consequences for their children. The numbers don't lie, children are significantly more at risk when living with a non-biological male in the household. Research shows that children are 40 times more likely to be abused when a single mother brings a new partner into the home. In 2022 alone, 191,450 children in the United States were abused by their mothers, while 125,489 were abused by their fathers. The presence of an unrelated male increases the likelihood of physical and sexual abuse, yet many mothers ignore the warning signs or refuse to believe their children when they speak up. High-profile cases that prove the pattern. The media is filled with tragic stories of mothers who failed to protect their children from abusive partners. Take the case of Gabriel Fernandez, an 8-year-old boy tortured and murdered by his mother's boyfriend while she stood by and did nothing. His mother, Pearl Fernandez, was sentenced to life in prison for her role in his death. Another horrifying example is the case of Adrian Jones, a 7-year-old boy starved and abused by his mother and stepfather. His mother, Heather Jones, allowed the abuse to continue until Adrian's death, after which his remains were fed to pigs. Why do mothers allow this? The reasons vary, but one brutal truth is that some women never wanted their children in the first place. Instead, they saw motherhood as a financial strategy, whether for government assistance, child support checks, or as a way to hold on to a man. When the reality of motherhood becomes overwhelming, when they're not getting the amount of money they expected, or when the man leaves, resentment sets in. Suddenly, the children are no longer assets but burdens. For these mothers, their loyalty to a man far outweighs their duty to their kids. They choose to ignore signs of abuse or dismiss their children's cries for help because acknowledging the truth would mean losing the relationship they've prioritized over their own flesh and blood. Some actively turn against their children, blaming them for their failed relationships and taking out their frustration through neglect or outright cruelty. Others have been conditioned by abuse themselves, unable to recognize the danger in their households. They convince themselves that their partner loves their kids, even when the evidence says otherwise. Many are manipulated into believing their children are exaggerating or lying, choosing the comfort of denial over taking action. But silence is complicity. A mother who allows abuse to happen is just as guilty as the abuser himself. Children deserve protection, not to be sacrificed for a mother's selfish desires or misplaced devotion. The cost of silence. A mother's refusal to act can be just as damaging as the abuse itself. Children who grow up in abusive households suffer long-term psychological trauma, including depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Many struggles with trust and relationships later in life, carrying the scars of their mother's betrayal. While abusive men must be punished, mothers who enable or ignore abuse must also be held responsible. Society often excuses maternal complicity, framing mothers as victims rather than accomplices. But the truth is, a mother's primary duty is to protect her children, and failing to do so makes her just as guilty as the abuser. Accountability should be equal. Deadbeat fathers are rightfully called out, but deadbeat mothers should be held to the same standard. Parenting is not just a father's obligation, it is shared. A bad mother should not be excused simply because society has conditioned us to see them as victims instead of perpetrators of neglect. No child deserves to be abandoned by their parent, whether that parent is a man or a woman. It's time we say it plainly: deadbeat mothers exist, and their failures deserve just as much scrutiny. Call it what it is. A bad mother is just as damaging as a bad father. She abandons, neglects, abuses, and destroys her child's chances at a stable future. Deadbeat mothers exist, and they need to be held accountable. Until society stops turning a blind eye and pretending only fathers can be absent, children will keep suffering in silence. The truth is uncomfortable, but ignoring it won't make it disappear. It's time to acknowledge the problem and demand better for the children caught in the crossfire. Bad mothers don't just harm their children in the present, they set them up for lifelong struggles. From financial instability to emotional trauma, the damage is often irreversible. Society must hold these mothers accountable and ensure children receive the protection and care they deserve. It's time to hold all parents accountable. Conclusion: who's the real deadbeat? Mothers can be deadbeats too, and pretending otherwise only enables the cycle of neglect. The expectations placed on fathers should apply to mothers as well. A parent who refuses to care for their child, physically, emotionally, or financially, should face the truth of what they are. No more sugarcoating, no more excuses. Parenthood is a responsibility, not an optional role that can be abandoned without consequence. It's time for the world to stop giving deadbeat mothers a free pass. While absent fathers statistically make up the majority of negligent parents, bad mothers are dangerously underrated in discussions on parental irresponsibility. Financial abandonment is unacceptable, but emotional and physical neglect by mothers causes deep trauma that lasts a lifetime. Society must stop excusing toxic mothers while continuing to shame absent fathers and instead hold both accountable. The real deadbeat isn't about gender, it's about failure to prioritize and nurture a child. Period. The truth is that bad parenting is not gender-specific. Both mothers and fathers can be neglectful, abusive, or absent. The real deadbeat is the parent who fails to provide love, stability, and support regardless of gender. It is time to hold bad mothers to the same standard as bad fathers and recognize that parental failure is not exclusive to men. Mothers acting alone account for the highest percentage of child abuse cases, with 40% of victims being abused by their mothers. Also, the highest risk of child maltreatment occurs in homes where a mother has a live-in boyfriend or stepfather, up to 40 times higher risk of physical or sexual abuse. Thank you for watching today's video. We've delved into a topic that often slips under the radar, the existence of deadbeat mothers and the importance of holding all parents accountable. It's crucial to recognize that parental neglect and irresponsibility know no gender boundaries. If you found this discussion enlightening or if it resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking content and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Let's keep the conversation going and work towards a more balanced perspective on parenting responsibilities. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video. What do you think? Deadbeat mothers exist too? Let me know in the comments section. Stay bougie. Follow and support me. All links in bio. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Check description for more info. New episodes every day.